Welcome to part 2 of our midweek special. Today we're going to be talking Vorsprung der Technik, or Audis as we know them. To keep it interesting, we're only going to be talking about the spicy ones. We're going to work our way from the bottom all the way up to oral heaven. And that's oral with an A, by the way. My name's Tom, and you're watching Paragon Cars. Let's go. Okay, let's get started. This is an Audi S3. It's the most dailyable hot hatch due to its quiet cabin and soft ride. This particular S3 also has the optional mag ride system, making it even softer over UK roads than the standard car. Anyway, how does it drive? Well, it's typical Audi really, bit of understeer and not much drama. For someone like me, it's not exactly exciting, but it does bring a different kind of feeling. It's what I'd call a satisfying driving experience. It rewards precise inputs and allows you to tear up the B road with surprising efficiency. A lot of that is due to the Haldex system, but also because this 2-litre engine does more than its numbers would suggest. Talking of numbers, it's got 306 horsepower and 400 Nm of torque. Let's see that in action though, and do the 30 to 70 sprint. We managed 4.21 seconds, but what does that mean? Well, that means it's only 0.03 seconds off of a 2017 Mercedes A45, and nearly 0.3 of a second quicker than an A35. The wide power band gives this S3 a wide breadth of ability, and means you can surprise a lot of quicker cars on a B road. Moving on, we're looking at the car one up from the S3, the S4. Fundamentally very similar in terms of chassis, but there's some key differences underneath the skin. Firstly, the engine. It's now a 3-litre V6 turbo with 354 horsepower and 500 Nm of torque. Then there's the Quattro system. You see, unlike the S3's Haldex, the S4 uses the proper Torsen Quattro setup. This gives you much more rear bias when powering out of corners. It's still certainly no drift car though. The inside is a real step up, massaging seats, fancy interior trims, and deprivation chamber levels of sound insulation make this probably one of my favourite interiors to date. It does make it heavy though, so let's see if that affects it on the 30 to 70 sprint. Well, it was quicker, but only just. We managed 4.03 seconds, which puts it first on the leaderboard. For a daily driver, that's about the perfect amount of pace, I think. Next up, we have our first and only SUV. The Audi SQ5. It uses the same 354 horsepower engine as the S4, and unsurprisingly has a very similar interior. Strangely though, it's missing the standard massage sport seats. Instead, you get a slightly more relaxed looking interior. That combined with the air suspension makes this a fantastic car for long journeys. It'll even do well over 30 miles per gallon as well, making it very efficient for an SUV. Sadly, because it's higher up than the S4, it is lacking that sporty edge, and for me it really is just a normal Q5 with a big engine. It's quick to understeer and will grab at the brakes at the slightest hint of slip. Saying that though, I think they went the right direction with this. It's an SUV at the end of the day, so it was never going to be a sports car. Anyway, let's see what time we can get out of it on the 30 to 70 sprint. Wow, that extra weight really slows this thing down. It managed 4.68 seconds, making it a fair bit slower than the S4. In terms of SUVs though, it was also pretty slow. The equivalent Mercedes GLC 43 and BMW X4 M40i were both 0.3 of a second quicker than this in our other tests. Right, let's get serious. Now we have our first proper sports car from Audi. This is an RS5. And it actually has a smaller engine when compared to the S4 and SQ5. That's for a reason though. It needed some extra room for a second turbo, plus its cooling. The engine also has a shorter stroke, allowing it to produce strong numbers higher up in the rev range. There's a lot more aggression in the powertrain, but not a huge amount when it comes to a corner. One thing's for sure though, it's on rails come rain or shine. Down a B road, this thing will walk away from pretty much anything. Let's see that 30 to 70 time though, to get some perspective on the pace of this thing. We managed 3.5 seconds, which puts it first on the leaderboard. For a bit of context, that's slower than a C63S, but keep in mind though, the RS5 will do that time every day of the week. The C63, not so much. Now, our final car. I was debating whether to include it due to it being modified, but I just had to, purely because it makes noises that touch the soul in a truly primal way. Let's just take a listen for a moment at one of the best sounding engines ever made. Now of course this is an Audi R8, but it has indeed been modified. A standard V10 Plus makes do with just over 600 horsepower, but this thing's got a VF800 supercharger, taking it to, you guessed it, 800 horsepower. This one's running closer to 850 though, as there's been some airflow optimizations with the exhausts and a couple of other totally legit mods. Even though this car's crazy, it's still the thinking man's supercar, as it really is comfortable. The mag ride, when slackened off, gives this thing a ride similar to a regular Audi A6. It's amazing what Audi have done with this thing. It's captured the Italian flair of that Lamborghini V10 and encapsulated it in exquisite German engineering. Everything feels solid, there's no rattles, and even the design is just beautiful. It's simple, elegant, yet highly functional. Then the way this car handles tells a similar story. The steering is just on a completely different level, even compared to the RS5. Then we come to the chassis, and oh my god, is it good. It still has hints of Audi, but thankfully without the understeer, it just has perfect balance, allowing you to go down a road at a very serious pace. Plus, it'll actually go sideways. Not something many other Audis can do. Enough about handling though. Let's see this thing in action and do the 30 to 70 sprint. Well, that puts it in perspective, doesn't it? 2.13 seconds is just crazy when you think about it. In the time it takes me to say Audi R8 V10 Plus, this thing is already breaking the speed limit. And the thing is, it does it with relative ease. Most supercars will have you white-knuckled at the wheel, but you could quite happily drive this thing fast with one hand on the wheel and one on your morning coffee. So, if I could sum up Audi's sports cars in a sentence, what would I say? Well, it's actually just two words, and that's easy fun. What does that mean though? Well, cars like BMWs and Mercs require a bit more focus when behind the wheel, especially on the limit, whereas Audis just get on with it. They're the best for daily driving and still just about interesting enough to put a smile on your face. As always, I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, give it a like and why not subscribe? As not only can you see more content like this, you can also see everything we have for sale. My name's Tom, and you've been watching Paragon Cars. I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.